TV.
Dear viewer of Salam Television, welcome you again to today's edition of the ALhidaayah show. My name is Muhammad Sekarala, your host, and I'll be with the guest today, Brother Sekarima Hamza. Please say salam to the audience.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today is the 24th of July. That corresponds to the 6th of Muharram, the first month of the Islamic calendar. And welcome you all from the weekend. Hope you had a nice lunch. To those who attended the burial of our late elder, Hajj Chanjo, we welcome you back and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives him his shortcomings and as well rewards you for the efforts of going to bury. Brother Sekarima,
Yes.
Today we want to look at a key component of science and technology, which is careers that we find in the science and technology domain,
Yes.
specifically in the ICT field. For starters, kindly take us through what is ICT and what are the careers that someone should refer to.
Naam, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We thank Allah for the gift of life and for the knowledge that He has enabled us to access, because it is only through the rahmah of Allah that you can get any knowledge. Because when the angels were asked, they said, La ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. So if the angels also say they don't know anything apart from what Allah has taught them, how about we, the human beings? Now, IT is nowadays referred to as ICT, which is Information and Communication Technologies. Because initially, the communication was not a very important part of the IT domain.
Okay.
So you'd find mainly information generation. So you sit on a computer, you work there, whatever was being done was ending at that point. But as time went on and the internet was invented, human communication was revolutionized. It became a day-to-day thing. And now internet is just a very ubiquitous thing. You find the internet in everything that we use.
Okay.
And as we go forward, we shall find what we call the Internet of Things, where machines are able to communicate with one another. So for now, we still have the human element, meaning, yes, your phone is connected to my phone, but it is you operating the phone. But we should, in the future, reach a point where devices are communicating to one another. And that's why we would like to really put a lot of emphasis on this area of ICT as a science and the technology domain,
Yes.
where we can really make impact and where we have a very large spectrum of things that we can do. Because we saw last week that we could engage in agriculture. Agriculture is a very good and productive domain, but it has its own limitations. You can only do it in a certain place. You can't do it under certain conditions. So the requirements are also quite a bit stringent. You need land. But here, all you need is a computer.
The computer.
And in some cases, you may not even need a computer. But you need a computer. So, in this spectrum of IT, the very first thing you can go into, specialize, become proficient, is computer programming. Now, computer programming has specialities like people we call software engineers, software architects, and so many others, people that are involved in the construction of computer programs.
Yes.
So the entire framework of what we are calling ICT is really sitting on what we call computer programs. And programming is perceived to be a very difficult thing, because if you look at the field, the IT field and you point out the people that are doing programming work, you'll find they are very few.
Very few.
I think the reason simply being that programming is largely a synthesis level activity. You know, for us in education, we have the taxonomy of learning and knowledge.
Yes.
So you have memory, you have ability to do things. The highest level, which we call synthesis, is where you use your knowledge to create something new. So that's the highest. So in an examination we evaluate, but the highest level of evaluation is, can this individual use what they know to come up with something totally new, meaning it was not there, but you have built it out of the knowledge that you have. So computer programming will take you to synthesis in nearly every day, and I think that's why people don't consider it to be very difficult, because other domains you don't need a lot of synthesis. For example, if you are for example manning a front desk, you are a receptionist, you have a procedure that is given to you. When a person comes with question X, this is the answer. When a person comes with question Y, they see this one. So you don't need to do a lot of very original thinking in order to man that kind of station. And indeed so many other domains, even in industries like teaching, we may not need to do a lot of synthesis, because the syllabus is there, the notes are here, the students are available, and you tend to do this activity over and over again. So in the end, you find you can simply repeat what you did some time back.
Okay, so now,
but with the computer programming, it is usually building things from nearly nowhere. Granted, the industry has grown and people can be able to create some generic things you can add together, but still, even to know what should be added together is an activity of synthesis. So that is the very first and the foundation where a person can be able to enter into this field of ICT. Yes.
I want to believe you've come in a background of a university lecturer.
Yes.
And the language of programming, I want to believe, is university. Now I want you to talk to that senior 3 students. This is second term. We are approaching the end of term exams. And then also the people out there in the sitting rooms that are watching us. Break it down simply. If I'm a senior 2 student who wants to take a career in ICT, when I hear of programming, what should I look forward to, and then what is needed for me to develop that a skill of being able to create something new from?
Now, programming is simply instructing computers to perform certain tasks. So we should not look at it as some extremely difficult thing. Yes, the actual implementation may in some cases be difficult,
yes.
But it is essentially instructing computers.
So does it require me to read a lot such that I have enough information to feed the computer? Because
So
you always say garbage in, garbage out.
So it can start with something as simple as tell the computer to write this statement on the screen.
The screen, yes.
Which we call the Hello World program. That's the simplest.
Okay.
So you can have just one line. Computer, you write this on the screen.
You're talking to it like I'm talking with my phone, or? And
that should be the understanding of a human being when we talk of programming. Okay. Programming, you are simply sitting down, just like you'd sit with a fellow human being and you tell him, Mr. Sekalala, I'm going to send you to town. When you reach Kampala Road, you'll get out from the Centenary Park and go into that bank that is there, which is a Centenary Bank. You'll give them this information. So the way you talk to a human being, we communicate via these natural languages like Luganda, English, and the others. Those are what we call natural languages. But now, because these machines cannot understand natural language, we create some language that they can use, which we can also use. So you sit down and talk to that piece of metal, but in a way that it can understand. But let's build a logical or a mental picture that programming, you are simply talking to to the computer and giving it instructions of what to do in a language it can understand.
So it means it's not a beginner's kind of activity.
It can be beginner, like I've said. You can create a very simple program, just to mention a certain word on the screen. And from there you can begin to expand and say, okay, let's make this program now allow a person to add 2 numbers.
Yes.
So you tell the person, please enter the first number. Person enters.
Okay.
Please enter the second number. Person enters. It makes a summation and displays on the screen. These are the small bits of what it involves. Of course, as the requirement expands, it becomes a bit more advanced. But let's interpret programming merely as being able to talk to a machine and give it instructions. Why we need to emphasize programming is that many of the other countries that we admire, like the US and India and the others, they grew to where they are mainly because of that ability to build productive programs of computers. India, for example, was a simple third world country not very many years back. But because they managed to train some of their people in countries where there was good programming training, like in the US, when they came back, they started now to realize that you can actually compete favorably. Actually, I think it was yesterday, a Ugandan won an award.
Best innovation?
There was an award that was, I think, in South Africa or someplace. So this award was, what did these people build? They built some kind of neighborhood watch platform that uses mobile app, some simple networking gadgets, and the purpose was we have a neighborhood area, some kind of place with many houses near one another. So we want to keep ourselves in the loop in that no one gets robbed with others not being aware. So you can see the concepts are usually really real problems, and they are simple, and these people built a simple gadget that can allow this entire neighborhood to communicate to one another without necessarily having to rely on like high-end technology. You have your small network there. Even if the normal telecom network is off or power is not available, you still have capacity to communicate to one another and to send. And they were able to win an award. Why? The requirements of innovation in this area, they are not really very big. Because if you are going to, for example, participate in research for improving car technology, the kind of equipment you need, you really don't have that kind of resources. But for computers, the computer that the Indian is using is the one I am using here. Granted, they may vary in terms of capacity to do work, but in terms of the machine itself, it's the same. So for as long as one can sit and really think and come up with these interesting ideas, it should be able to work fine. Maybe the only challenge we find is that people don't really do a lot of original thinking. Here in Uganda, we have that tendency to copy what the other person is doing. Now that one stifles the entire area. Otherwise, in a country like Uganda, you have 1,000 problems that can be at least reduced in case people were to employ some kind of IT. But you'll find there's not much of original thinking, so we tend to repeat what we see around, and it stifles the entire sector. So that is one area. We may not go into heavy details for that particular area. Yes.
I was listening to one of the elders we have in the country, and to him the main cause of unemployment today is people focusing so much on the theoretical bit of it. So for example, he's going to hear there's a programming program as a computer-based kind of field.
Yes.
But this person is going to graduate from campus, they throw a very big graduation party, and to him it was, why can't you as a parent develop in your child the skill or the attitude of having to question you and say, Mommy, Daddy, I've finished my ICT. Please buy me a laptop, buy me a studio, buy me this. I start my what?
My own.
So I want you to talk to that student or someone that is in the process of graduating from university and they have studied programming, what should they focus on to help them build this aspect of ICT?
Now, one thing to note,
yes,
and I think it is it's on a sad note,
yeah,
is that this IT is a skill-based domain. Actually, in some countries, for example, if you go to Bangladesh, where I had my master's education,
yes,
for them they regard it as part of technical education, like the way we see mechanical engineering, civil, and it is the way we teach them at technical education level.
okay.
This is exactly the same way they approach the computing domain, meaning it is hands-on from day one. Whichever of the other areas of IT we shall see, it is hands-on from day one.
But in Uganda,
Now, unfortunately, the way our programs are designed, the university programs, because I come from the university.
yes, our education system.
The university programs are designed as more of eye-openers.
Eye-openers. Now that's just showing you what is.
So they are designed as eye-openers, meaning the intention is not to build a real solid person from a class here, because imagine this person is given 60 hours,
60 hours, yes,
to teach this student from 0 to a certain competency level. So that 60 hour cannot really build a solid practical IT profession. Remember also, the programs are designed because they are eye-openers. We essentially load everything on these students. So we shall teach you some networking,
yes,
some programming. So you don't specialize from day one. So by the time you really begin to discover and say, I think I'm going to do this, the time is up, and you graduate and move out. Now, that's why you find many of those that come from the institutions, yes, they have a wider exposure to the industry, but you may find if the student has not put in an individual effort and really built themselves outside the class, the person can even walk out minus any skill. So we at university, we think it is not our role to dictate what this person should do. Our role is you expose as much as possible. Let this person do what they have to do. Unfortunately, the education system is not built like that. So it's at university that we come with this very radical approach of thinking that the student is going to think outside the box. Yet, maybe with the new curriculum, students, maybe they may be a bit better. But all the others have been coming with the teacher comes to class, loads you with the notes, tells you exactly what. So if a student has started like that from P1 up to senior 6, you don't expect them to change and become very practical just within the 3-4 years that they are at the university. And that is partially what causes a problem.
So do you have any, can I say the outside university institutions
yes,
or places you could recommend people to go and perhaps develop that skill further program?
So you should be able to find, now, the training institutes, because you may find, yes, they are not universities,
yes,
they are skills training centers. But even these also sometimes, they may repeat the same mistake as the universities. So and they will tell you, now here we teach practical skills, but in actual sense, all they have done is to remove the theory part from the menu, but they have left the format of teaching to be the same. I work with an IT consultancy company that is called the Eurosat group of companies. Now there, what we do, we don't train this person by going through some syllabus, because that's the way the universities do their teaching, and that method does not build skills. It simply exposes the person and can give them an opportunity if they really decided to think. But a person does not learn how to dig by reading a certain book. You have to go into the garden, and you don't go into an example garden. You have to,
in science we call it a control garden.
So you have to do real gardening in order for you to build skills. Now here, what we do and what we think should be the way, this student should be given a live project. For example, we are going to be working on Mr. Sekalala's personal website.
Yes.
By the end of our activity, this website should be on the internet.
I think that is what is done in India, Japan, and those countries.
By exposing this person to a live problem, the level of focus changes, because just like the way we behave, if you are reading notes for purposes of just reminding yourself, you don't really focus. But if you know tomorrow is the exam, the level of focus is way bigger. So if we are to teach people and to make them practical in any of the domains that we shall look at within this spectrum of ICT, it is about doing something that is live. So you learn the skills, but as you implement them in a live environment, meaning how do I start building a website?
So in other words, what I'm getting is this building of websites and what branding of like materials is all under programming, if I can.
Yes, because finally the websites are no longer just simple static things. They are entire systems that work with a lot of data, so you find yourself having to do programming. So that's what we are saying. So that industry there is not receiving enough attention, even within the sector itself, because if you look at the thousands of students that graduate with their IT degrees, you may find the ones who really feel they need to go and join the programming domain and really make impact, they may be less than even 5%. So you consider that's a very tiny percentage. Yet that is one area where you have a chance, where you have a comparative advantage. Other countries, people are no longer don't really want, people no longer want to stretch themselves and do a lot of that hardcore thinking. They have many options. So if you are going to be looking for programmers that are required even under special immigration, you will find the spaces are available. Because in some countries, people don't really want to get themselves into that very difficult, hardcore thinking. They prefer to work in less stringent areas. Exactly. So meaning, if you can train very good engineers that do programming work, you can even have the labor export market, and you, instead of just sending house girls and some of the other people that we send out, you can send out real engineers, people that can make real impact. Yes.
Thank you very much. Dear viewer, we are here on the ALhidaayah show, and science and technology as an aspect we are considering, specifically the ICT field. We'll have a short break and then we'll be returning. Inshallah.
Eno ye Salam TV.
It's the Premier League, all on DSTV. All the goals, clashes, and moments. All of Rashford, Salah, and Saka.
Their start is getting better.
All in the language of your choice. All in HD. Available on all these bouquets to choose from. To watch on all these devices. Get DSTV with an HD decoder plus installation and 1 month family for 89,000 Ugandan shillings. It's the Premier League, all on DSTV.
Twake for our teams. Ignite your color with Plascon, proud partner of Uganda Sports. Color your world.
Explore, enjoy and dance to the latest content, beats and kawozi from Uganda and beyond. Simply go to your Play Store or App Store right now, find Afro Mobile, download it straight to your phone and get started. Is it TV you want? Simply open the app, click on TV, select the channel you want and watch live. Are you busy right now? Then check out On Demand or enjoy in your free time. Afro Mobile. The future is now.
Better steady, be better.
By nature of who we are as a people, you want to blame someone else for something that befalls you, something unfortunate that befalls you. You scratch someone's car, you're looking for the next border guy to blame and all those kinds of things. And so is the case with digital fraud. The moment someone takes your 100K, 50K, 20K, 1 million, 20 million, you're looking out for that thief and everyone, when we're not looking at our responsibility. I mean, if you have your phone and you've not sent someone to withdraw money from it and a message pops up and you're entering your PIN code involuntarily, you could have just cancelled that message or all those kinds of things. So for me, it is also about us. We have a personal responsibility to enable digital fraud not to grow in this beautiful country where the economy is tough already and we are trying to grow despite that tough economy. So hey, be better, better steady.
Better steady, be better.
In partnership with Uganda Communications Commission, Bank of Uganda, MTN Uganda, Equity, Uganda Bankers Association, Post Bank, United Media, Stanbic Bank, and MTN Momo.
Nivana wafe twenywele, nivana wafe twenywele, nivana wafe tunyobula. Eish, 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 eish. Nivana wafe tunyobula. For more goals, kumala kenyota.
Nivana agira mu chupa za mililita 5 ku siringi 5 neza litemu n'ekitundu ku siringi 15. Nivana packaged drinking water akolebwa Crown Beverages Limited, abakozi ba Pepsi. That's life, that's Nivana. Eno ye Salam TV.
Welcome back from the break. This is the ALhidaayah show. It comes to you every Monday, 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock on Salam Television. The show is ALhidaayah, and we are handling the aspect of science and technology, specific emphasis on the ICT domain of field. With me is Mr. Sekalema Hamza, lecturer at the Islamic University in Uganda, Kampala campus. All campuses actually, because he also does some other administrative work. Mr. Sekalema,
Yes.
before we went to the break, we were looking at programming as one of the areas in ICT that we need to pay attention to.
Yes.
And we've looked at the detailed bit of it and what challenges there are. And we noted that being a skill-based area, institutions out there need to begin teaching it as a hands-on.
Yes, in a very applied
not theoretical
way.
as it is being done, but you also noted that the time that is there to
It's also quite
teach
small.
is very small.
Yes.
So aside from programming, what other areas in the ICT sector can we look at?
Okay, there are other areas like, for example, networking. Networking involves connecting computers. And in some cases, since we have other devices that are not necessarily part of mainstream computer, but they are connected to networks.
Yes.
Like these phones here, they are nowadays able to connect to computer networks.
Wi-Fi also part of
It is part of that.
Because of late I also see you can network a printer to.
So that industry of networking is also there. So in that industry, you don't do a lot of programming work. No, you simply configure these devices to communicate to one another in a secure way. Because apart from just connecting, you should be able to secure. For example, if you put your computer in your printer, which is wireless, in such a way that anyone can connect to it, a person can even print on it even outside your office. Possibly they will need to sneak in to collect their printouts, but ultimately they can use it. They may even just use it to disorganize you. Imagine a person sends a 100-page document on your printer. So even if he has not come for it, it's really a disorganizing factor. So that is another area. Nowadays it has become a bit easier. Sometime back you ran mainly the cable-based network. So you need to go into the ceiling, do a lot of cabling. But nowadays, with the expansion of wireless technologies and things have become a lot more wireless, you tend to do less work. For example, if you are going to configure wireless for a building like this, you'd need maybe just one tower, and the rest is who is connecting to my network. How do I ensure that I'm having the correct people that are supposed to connect? How do I do audits? Because in the end you may say I have only 6 users, but a 7th one comes, so you should be able to see what has this person done, etc. So that one is another area where you should be able to participate in the area of networking.
Is it also the hype I'm seeing with these mobile telecommunication companies?
Yes.
The ALhidaayah, MTN, there's what it's called Wakan.
Exactly. So what those people are putting up is that instead of you connecting to or building your own local area network, you can just buy one gadget, which is called an access point. So you put it in the middle of your office and everyone connects to it. And you can see it has a very large connection base. It has up to 32. But those kinds of devices don't really need a dedicated network manager, because you have only one gadget and the people surrounding it, so it's a very small environment. But in case you are having a large company like a university or a school or etc., in that case you are not talking of just a simple network. You have many segments and so many people come in and go out. You need to build it in a professional where it does not run out of capacity to accommodate new people, and you also ensure that no one is just coming in and consuming network resources, because in some cases you find on that very network is where you are keeping your very sensitive information. The school management system is sitting on that network, and it has marks, it has fees, it has HR issues. So if you just leave it there unprotected, you'll find people are simply doing whatever they want.
When we go to some organizations' offices, you ask for a password to the Wi-Fi, and somebody says, "Give me your phone," and he puts it for you.
Because they don't really want everyone to be able to just come onto their network. So that is one area that you can be able to work with as an IT professional. Okay. Another area that is growing very rapidly, it is largely powered by IT, although it is in the communications area. That's what we can call digital marketing and digital communications. In that case, you are utilizing available platforms like, for example, the social media, some websites and etc. In order to provide a channel through which an organization puts out its information. Sometime back, for you to know what is going on, you'd need to wait for a news bulletin. 24 hours. But you know very well nowadays that Twitter, for example, is one of the top channels where we get breaking news. Even the government puts out whatever information it wants via that platform. So for professional management of those platforms, that is another domain of IT. And in some countries, you'll find they hire even professional content developers. It's not just thinking of whatever you want to think and you start typing, because you're talking of corporate communication. There's a need for the information to be impactful, to be useful, so they tend to hire people that do that work. But to manage those channels and configure them, ensure that they are secure, etc., that is another digital content management area, which is now part of our ICT. Actually, the domain of ICT covers all the others. For example, in the medical domain, some time back, it was all full of medicine. But now you have telemedicine, where you have, for example, there is a telemedicine company that has grown very large here in Uganda. It's called the, what's the company? They provide, actually for them, they started during COVID. So what they do, they simply enroll you onto their service.
Yes.
Then in case you want treatment, you don't move to the health center. They send a professional across. So the person comes to you, they do whatever they have to do, the preliminaries and all the what would happen at a health center. Even if it is taking samples for testing, they do it. Then finally, they move out of the house, go and do whatever they have to do, then return to you results. In case there's diagnosis and there's treatment recommendation, they bring it over. So that is now telemedicine. And to access their service, you use an app, you use it. So you can see that the domain is originally medicine, but technology via ICT is making or moving this service to a more accessible platform. So all that can be available. All I do is pull out this gadget, begin to search for whatever I need to search, find it, everything is there, the prices are there, I can order and pay. So that domain can also be recognized, and its contribution is very well known.
So in other words, you're trying to tell us that if you're an entity out there, an organization, business, and you don't have a mobile app in this stage, you deserve to be called not serious? Or
definitely, because remember in a business it is about value proposition. So how different is your product from mine? And possibly that's why the African countries are not competing very well globally, because the product you are providing has very little advantage over that coming from Asia or that coming out of South America or some of the others. But we are saying these are all IT domains, and it is our imagination that is preventing us from being able to utilize these technologies and to join a science domain that is that expands infinitely. And as we move forward, we expect that the domain will even expand further. So digital content management, all those are areas that can be recognized as IT. The other very important one is what we call cyber security. Now, like we have said, all these gadgets are connected to one another.
Yes.
But finally, once they connect to one another, the issue of distance goes away. The way I connect to your phone here is the way I can connect to a phone in the US for as long as we are over the internet. So it therefore means that the threat level moves from simple environment here in Uganda where you have very few hackers, possibly there's only one or two, and now you're exposed to the entire world of hackers, some of whom are well above our level of even understanding. Because what the hacker essentially is doing is to be able to access your systems in ways that you have not planned for.
Yes.
That is the whole idea of hacking. Find a way that has not been planned for and get in through that. So what do you need? Cybersecurity. And that one will continue to be a demanding area because every day we keep making all these apps and etc. But ultimately, as computers, we don't have 100% information about how they function. So anyone that can find a way to go around the normal perimeter. For example, most of our systems are username, password.
Username, password, yes.
That's why we protect the password. We tell a person, blah, 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 don't give your password. So how about if I run Sekarara's username and password? Somehow I've sweet-talked him into telling me, using what we call social engineering. Social engineering, I can come and challenge you and tell you, I doubt that you even remember your own password. So the human being is pushed by challenge. He says, how can I not know my password? It is
this.
So in that case, you think you have proved a point, yet in actual sense you have given sensitive information to another party. So meaning username, password may not be enough. Nowadays the banks and other institutions, including ours, IUIU, we require that you now provide an additional identifier. Yes, you know the password, but I'm going to send you a code, enter it here. Meaning if you don't have my phone, even if you bypass the password area, you are now stuck. You don't have the code. The code has been sent to me. And since the code is sent to me, one, I realize there is someone who knows my password because there's no way that code can come unless the person has provided a password. So these are all areas of security. And unfortunately, because cybersecurity is more like a military area, you find there are even fewer. Didn't we say programmers are few? The security people are again fewer, yet the work they do is a lot more critical than even the programmers. Because imagine a bank. If someone is able to bypass and begin to give financial transfer information that is unauthorized, what kind of loss? Just imagine overnight, one bank suffered a loss of up to 1.2 billion. A bank was connected to some other payment provider. So what these people did was to hack into the payment provider to initiate transactions to this bank that were not necessarily legal. So the bank system, for this, once it receives any communication coming from this trusted party, it goes ahead and processes, because the understanding is within security you have trusted party and trusted party. So the moment I receive a message from Sekarara's number saying, please send me 20K, I don't need to make a lot of investigation because it is Sekarara's number, so I send. Yet in actual sense, it is not Sekarara on the other side. Someone has stolen his phone, possibly has beaten him up into revealing his password, so he has made that request. I have sent the man and he has withdrawn. So within a single day, a bank can lose billions of shillings.
Wow.
Some hackers are even at the level of hacking national financial elements. There were hackers in North Korea who were stealing from the reserves of Bangladesh. The reserves are stored in the US. These people were able to craftily find a way of initiating these transactions from what would be the legal people, the people that are supposed to take the transactions. And they ended up stealing, imagine stealing from the coffers of a country. But all of this is cyber security. And like I have said, you find very few people. At IU, we have one person that does that work. And primarily, that is the only person that is at that level. Of course, the cyber security industry covers every one of us. For as long as, even if you have a very good security person, but people are leaving, their phones are unlocked. The activities of the other person are not of much use. The other interesting thing about cyber security is an area that we call ethical hacking. I can decide and come here and tell Salam TV, I'm going to run an ethical hacking activity here. Ethical hacking means you try to break into a system but with a good intention of discovering problems that should be sorted out. So the unethical one is where I come, find a way of getting into your system for purposes of doing dubious activity. So, for example, what if I am able to hack into the control system for this television? I take it over, because most of these are digital platforms. I take it over and begin to air out pornography.
It happened to one of the radio stations in Uganda.
Exactly. Because we rely on we rely on computers to help us manage the studios, and it is, if someone is able to hack into that central control point, all he needs to do is to simply lock you out. So log in, change passwords, lock the illegal users out. Don't you think Salam TV will pay anything to recover the control of their central system? Yes. So those are the illegal ones. But ethically, you could say, let me try to see if a person can be able to crack your system. Actually, we tend to separate. The hacking is a natural good activity. It's cracking that we regard as illegal and not good. So I would come, begin to try and find, is there any loophole here? Then once I find the loophole and I try it out and I see it works, I come and inform you, you need to close loophole X, because a person with my level of understanding can come and take over the station using this route. So in that case, how beneficial is it? You are able to employ yourself without need for a job, because if you can do ethical hack testing for companies, you don't even need to have a company. Even if you are just an individual like Sekarad, you have the skills and you can come and test out. Because if a person comes to your home and tells you, you see that door there, even if you close it, a person can open it, and he shows you how. So you feel like they have relieved you of a danger that you were potentially supposed to face. So this is one other area. But of course, just like programming, the security area needs a lot of thinking. And because we are dealing with the rest of the world, you need to be ahead of them. Wow. So it involves a lot of thinking and finding ways of overcoming some of these problems. And this is another area where you could go in. Of course, you need to be a high-level programmer, but ultimately, that is another domain where you can very well establish yourself in this IT domain. Wow. One comment to note is that our sector here, you don't need to have done a real IT degree in order for you to join. For example, you are an LLB graduate. So if after this program you feel you need to start joining, and you will start in the easier way by building websites, you can join, because it's a skill-based activity. For as long as you can build a website and a person sees it, they really need to know whether you are an LLB graduate or you're a BIT. No one is interested in that. So there's no limit as to when do I join. You can join even now. You possibly did your social work degree and you've not found employment, but you feel you can handle some of these things, like for example, content management, professional content management. You need some training, possibly you do a certificate under Google and you become a professional in that way. So you can just channel, both within the industry and even academia, you should be able to channel into
thank you
this
very much, Brother Sekarema. We hope that our viewers out there, you have really appreciated the fact that ICT is a very wide field.
Yes.
For which, if we took interest in it, would really impact on our communities and perhaps have a new and better way of doing things. So he has hinted on very many areas: digital marketing and digital communication, cyber security, and the fact that all those, if you took it upon yourself to go and get any training, hopefully within a short time you would be an expert in the same. So, Brother Sakalema, as we wind up,
yes,
what message do you have for institutions, especially schools, universities, business owners, on the area of cyber security specifically? What message would you give them as we are concluding the show?
Okay, we have hinted on cybersecurity as a career area where people can be able to be gainfully employed and moreover doing very positive work. But for companies and institutions, my belief is that here in Uganda we have a very lax environment in terms of securing our devices. For example, you'll find on many systems people maintaining passwords like 123.
123.
So if that person is not protected by other layers like a one-time code or etc., in case the system only uses one username password, you'll find these kinds of systems become very vulnerable. So until a company faces a real loss out of this kind of activities, when you'll see them caring. Otherwise, no one is really interested in whether people are even, some even log into computers and leave them on. There's that inherent laziness. A person feels that shutting down the computer and again putting it back on is so they simply put off the monitor and leave the computer on. So these are all very dangerous ways of using technology, because the technology is good, but it just like the way it accelerates the way we do good things, it is the same way it can accelerate the way we do bad things. Like I said, a small group of people were able to steal up 1.2 billion from a large bank just with some few activities that are not really very complicated. So the domain of security is something that many organizations are not really featuring very well, and the professionals are very expensive. You may find a really well-groomed person may require up to 5 million a month. So imagine 5 million a month. How will you pay? In case there are companies there, that's the entire payroll. They have 5-6 staff. So if you have a cybersecurity person who is saying for him he wants 5 a.m. So the cost of hiring the professionals is a bit high, but ultimately it is an area, a good career area, and moreover not only locally, because since we are talking of cyber, so cyber is something that cuts across. It's a global phenomenon. You may not only be employable here in Uganda, you can even be employable in any country for as long as you have the skills.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sakalema. It has been interesting and having you on the show.
Thanks.
We've really learned a lot from the ICT domain. We hope that our viewers out there, you have picked a lesson or two from what the brother was sharing. We continue encouraging you to get an extra skill aside from your area of expertise. Even the ICT personnel yourselves, as you've heard from him, it's not enough with what you have currently. You need to go higher and higher. We continue appreciating your feedback that you always give us on the different platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Continue putting those comments. We shall always be glad to have them. Otherwise, we want again to thank you for being part of the show, and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards you for the time and enables you to get the best out of it. Till next time, I remain Muhammad Sakalala, your host, and was with Sakalema Hamza. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Eno ye Salam TV. Adhan ngekutusibwako
Hotel Africana,
Come as a guest and leave as a friend.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول أشهد أن محمدًا رسول